These fruits are poisonous, but that won't stop me. You see, as a lifelong forager and ethnobotanist, I kind of have a pretty good idea of when something is gonna kill me versus just be mildly toxic or unpleasant to eat. And these fruits fall into the latter category. These Virginia creeper fruits aren't too toxic, probably. I read that the Sioux ate them and gathered them like grapes. Other sources just say they're outright poisonous. Most toxic wild plants won't kill you in small amounts, especially if you chew up and spit it out, but I definitely don't recommend trying it. So after trying a few, I found that they're mildly sweet, but a little bit astringent. They're not too juicy or fleshy. I don't detect any burning sensation or really anything too unpleasant. So possibly edible. Again, I don't recommend eating these. They are supposed to be poisonous, but even if they're not poisonous, maybe not such a great food source. I'll have to do some further investigation on the phytochemistry. Another interesting food use of this plant that I definitely don't recommend trying is that of the Ojibwe, who would cut up the sections of the stem of this species and boil it and then eat the inner bark like corn on the cob. And then they would also take that decoction and boil it down into a syrup and eat that. And the roots may have been formerly eaten by the Ojibwe as well. But again, this plant may be poisonous, so I don't recommend it. I haven't tried that myself, but there might be some sugars in the stems of this, so it's an application that I do want to try at some point because I can find it very abundantly. This is in the grape family, the Vitaceae, so it can kind of be confused for those, and perhaps the source that said the Sioux was eating these confused them with grapes. The Kiowa definitely used them as a paint for their skin or feathers. The Kiowa name for these was Satai algo, which means paint berries. This species can also be very easily confused with poison ivy because it has this vine-like form, and especially when you look at the stem of this growing on the trunk, a lot of people interpret this as poison ivy. But poison ivy is much more hair-like, and these adventitious roots are wider, flatter, thicker, and flattened towards the trunk rather than being hair-like and diffuse all around. That specific epithet, quinquefolia, just refers to the 5 leaflets, palmately compound, and it yields this beautiful reddish color in the fall. Its fruits are very grape-like, but the Kiowa did use the bark of this medicinally as an expectorant and diuretic, and a decoction of the roots was drunk by the Meskwaki for diarrhea.
I did some research on the phytochemistry of Virginia creeper, and it supports my supposition that their fruits are probably safe to eat in small quantities, or at least taste, but they shouldn't be really regarded as a food source. Mainly, they're really high in oxalic acid, which are in a lot of plants that are known to be edible, but they can have deleterious effects and consumed in large quantities. There aren't really any other obvious poisonous compounds in the plant, but it is rich in flavonoids, phenolic acids, triterpenes, phytosterols, palmitic oleic and linoleic fatty acids, and tropane alkaloid, and these secondary metabolites support the plant's antioxidant, antimicrobial, anti-diabetic, and anti-inflammatory effects. So its medicinal uses might need to be looked into further. But as far as a food source, not really worth it, but hey, I tried.